So, welcome and happy Friday. Um, I find myself at the end of the week just wanting to kind of reflect on what happened during the week and the ups, the downs, what I've learned, what I observed during the week. And I thought, you know what? I want to share some of that with anybody who's interested. And I certainly welcome your comments. I realize I'm going live without pre scheduled time, but I think I'm going to try and do this Leaders Corner where I talk to leaders every Friday afternoon, maybe about end of business Friday. And if I decide to set a specific time, I'll get that out to everybody. But I run across a lot because I work with hundreds of different organizations over the years, thousands of people. So I want to share some of the highlights of the weekend and some of the head scratchers because there are a few of those. One of the things that happened this week, I've got a couple of different past clients that are struggling with finding sales directors or sales managers. And I talked to one of those clients this last week. And this falls under the head scratcher area. When I talked to them, the position's been open for many months and they're losing quite a bit of money every month because they don't have the position open, but they're struggling with how to move forward. Now, backstory, I've done retained search for 35 plus years. We have a very effective way of identifying the right candidates, qualifying the right candidates, bringing them in. So we do, whether it's just creating the targeting process and then matching that up with assessments in a pre-hire mode, which we call a selection model, or whether we do the entire search ourselves, it's very effective. We have a success rate, a hiring success rate above 90%. And this client knows that, but they've been struggling and that position's been open. And it just makes me wonder, how do you make a decision like that? Like it's easier to lose large amounts of money in sales revenue every month than spend a fraction of that to get a group of professional recruiters or search people like myself to go out and do it for you and get that position filled using the right kinds of targeting and assessments and everything to identify fit. Um, and we even provide a guarantee. But I'm scratching my head because what we would charge in a fee is a fraction of what they're losing every month. And I'll leave it at that. By the way, I'm not going to share client names, people names, or anything like that. That's confidential information. But the same situation is happening in another past client. And I don't know whether they just forget that other options are out there or whether they're afraid of spending money. I, I did have somebody I talked to recently. I've recently partnered with a new organization, good friend of mine by the name of Monty Sands, and he runs a company called Gen 7 Technologies. He's been recruiting not quite as long as I have, but close. And bottom line, he's a wonderful guy. Love him, love what he does. And we've been talking to different people about providing search services. And a lot of the questions I'm getting on that are, well, we just don't see the value in in spending money on that. And and I know, I realize there's a bias here, okay? I get it. I sell searches, retain search, that we wanna do for people and search services or hiring services that we provide to people. So yes, I have a bias. What I don't understand is the indecision that sets in. You really only have a few ways you can go. Do it yourself, and if that doesn't work, then find somebody else to help you. I mean, I don't see a lot of other gray area in that. And I think a lot of people are creating gray area because maybe they're afraid to spend money and not get a good result. And granted, There are people out there that provide services that don't do a great job with it. If you've experienced that yourself, I'm sorry. We guarantee what we do. If it doesn't work the first time, we're going to do it till it does work right. Um, Customer satisfaction and our reputation is really all we have. But what I'm sharing with you today in my Friday recap is the struggle that I'm having with understanding what is the roadblock. Because if you're losing a large, and I don't want to be specific, but if you're losing a very large amount of revenue every month because you don't have a sales leader, and I'm seeing this in multiple organizations, and it's been many months since that position's been filled, I don't understand the downside to trying something different and getting a better result. We know what the definition of insanity is, so I'm going to leave it at that. And by the way, I'm not judging anybody. That's not what this is about. I'm struggling with understanding where are the roadblocks for people to make better decisions and to move forward, because the hiring process itself is a full-time job. If you want to do it right, it really takes a lot of time and effort. So if you can outsource that in a way that really provides top-notch candidates, and in today's employment marketplace, you know where the best candidates are? And I had this conversation with somebody this week. The best candidates are passive candidates. They're not looking for a job. But here's what we know: 90% of candidates are open to looking at an opportunity. So when we do things, we create opportunity announcements. We want people to see the opportunity and the value and the benefit to them. The vast majority of people, 90% of people today are willing to look at an opportunity, but only about 25% or so are actively seeking another opportunity. And so when you post on job boards, you're most likely hitting the active candidates, not the passive candidates, and your best talent and your best fit is probably not going to be in those active candidates. Does that happen? Sure, it does. But the other thing that I wonder, and this is an ongoing conversation with several different people right now, is, well, we're focused on this person here. We're reaching out to them on LinkedIn. We're focused on this person. We're going to go after. They're not real excited, but we think we're going to get them. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what about the rest of the population? Who are you not looking at that could be your star person, your absolutely top-notch talent for that position? Anyway, just some recap around the whole uh, open position thing, and really wanted to focus for just a minute around what are the roadblocks. And I'd be very interested to hear from people. If you're watching this video and feel free to share with me, if you're in a leadership or a decision-making position, why would you hesitate? What are the things that get in the way of going and outsourcing when, and I'm not saying do that for everything. Do as much internal hiring as you can, doing it your own. That's great. Good for you if you can do that. But when you struggle with something, how long does that go on, and how are you making those decisions? Here's a kind of a sidelight to that. I was talking to somebody earlier this week about they have an open position and they do a decent job of finding people on their own. And that, I hope, didn't sound condescending. It was not meant to. They do a pretty good job. But the funny thing is, they said half of these resumes look just the same. And I just kind of laughed, and they said, okay, what are you laughing at? I mean, they know me a long time. And I said, because what they're doing is they're taking your job posting and they're putting it into an AI program like ChatGPT or something and saying, create a resume for me based on this job posting. Dead silence on the other end of the phone. I just laughed because technology is great, but it's also, it also creates some new challenges. Well, guess what? In my research, what I found is now there's new AI programs that search for AI generated resumes. So we're now creating this vicious cycle of what's going on and how are we going to do this, and I'm going to use this technology here and leverage that. And so it's just fascinating what's going on in the workplace. I want to switch just a minute to something else that I saw this week that I thought I'd share with you. There are several clients I've worked with in the last 2 or 3 years that have really had a partnership struggle where partners are not getting along like they used to. And there's a real uh, dissonance that's being created. And what happens, what I'm finding, is I get called in when that gets unbearable. Now, I wish I'd been called in before it got unbearable, because that becomes more of an intervention approach, which definitely is something that I do. But in my experience, those things don't happen overnight. They happen over time. So little changes, little habit changes, and they are based in habits, new habits that are formed. By the way, habits can be either productive or counterproductive. Uh, I've got an assessment that I use. I think I'm only one of maybe a couple of dozen people in the world certified in this assessment. It's just been released recently, but it is game changing in getting to the root cause of habits and being able to change those to really have habit transformation. By the way, in the bottom of this video in the description, I'll put a link in for a couple of free resources. One is an ebook that I just finished this week, and another is a set of training videos around habits. I'll make sure those links get down here in the video because I think it'll be very helpful. There is science, neuroscience behind all of this. And the assessment is a multi-science assessment. So it's measuring through many different sciences. The cool thing about habits that we now know is that even habits that have been around for 30 and 40 years can be changed in a relatively short period of time with work and effort and a good coach and I call it a habit interpreter, taking that data from that assessment. The assessment's easy to read, but the bottom line is if we don't know what our counterproductive habits are, and most of the time, guess what? They hide, either through us rationalizing about them or just a blind spot. We just have a blind spot to that habit. It's really interesting. What I'm finding is as I have integrated that into my work with people, organizations, leaders, teams, I'm seeing more and more of the root causes of so much division and divisiveness, I mean, and I think that may be a new word, diversiveness. I'm claiming that one. And just dissonance, all those D words that we don't like. I'm seeing a lot of that coming out of these counterproductive habits. Now, some people hide those things really well, others don't. Have you ever had somebody who just they had a habit that just drove you crazy and they had zero idea that that's how they were impacting you and other people? That's a blind spot. Why do I bring this up? Because within these partnerships that have kind of grown apart, then what's happened is there have been habits developed that are creating separation. And a lot of people are not aware of them, especially the individual maybe that formed that habit that is creating the division and the dissonance in the partnership. So that it's interesting. And let's be honest about it. The last few years have been hard on everybody, especially small to mid-sized organizations. It's just tough. And so I'm very, very interested. I'm going to have a limited number of people that I'm going to work with very, very closely on this habit transformation process. And in those links that I put below in the description, you'll have access to those free resources and a way to get in touch with me if you want to. Habits are a big deal. They're a very, very big deal because they're neural pathways we've created in our brains. And they're very well embedded because guess what happens? 43% of our actions every single day are driven by habits. What does that mean? It means we're not very thoughtful about them. We do them without thinking. There may be some of those you want to change. And we can certainly get into that with the ebook, get into that with those training videos. But I'm sharing that with you because I'm seeing direct application. And you may see it in your organization. And it may not be a partner or an owner. It may be another leader or a peer. It may be an employee that has some habits that need to change. But until you identify the counterproductive habits and start to diminish those, the productive habits cannot shine. They can't come through because everything you do to try and enhance and improve yourself doesn't just lift up your productive habits, it also lifts up your counterproductive habits because every habit has a very specific process. Something cues the habit, there's a prediction of what might happen, an action is taken, and the habit is either reinforced or it is extinguished, or we try to work that out. But a lot of times these counterproductive habits, there's a reward system that has been built in that keeps those from helping us move forward. That's probably more information than you wanted. Sorry about that. You can get all of that and a whole lot more in those free resources. But I do bring back the application there. I'm seeing a lot of people struggling, and a lot has come out of the COVID era and the post COVID era and where we are today. A lot of habits have been formed that are not necessarily productive habits. And there are ways to transform those. So that was something that I thought I'd share with you if you're interested. And please take advantage of those free resources. I enjoyed creating those. It all comes out of good science, and it all is good validated information. So I hope that that will help you work through some of those things on your own. Another thing that I kind of want to close out with this. Um, there is a lot of what I think is hesitancy right now in the marketplace, with leaders, with organizations, with people, just in our personal lives. There's a lot of uncertainty. I've got a flip chart over here that I look at quite frequently, that I've written the 14 top concerns of leaders today. And I can look at that flip chart right now and tell you that uncertainty is right at the top of the list, and distraction is right at the top of that list as well, as is hiring good talent and being able to get in touch with decision makers. So much of the 14 top concerns that leaders have today in 2024 is based around what's going on up here with people. Um, I've got a very good friend, David Tubley, who gave me a comment that I have stolen and called my own. So I'm giving David credit for that. Basically, I've adapted it just a little bit, but basically, it's you only have the internal resources available to deal with the next challenge or the next opportunity that you have built to that point. Meaning, we have to continually build our internal resources, our agility, our resilience, our energy, our focus, our motivation, our use of time. All of those things, we need to build a stockpile of that within us to be able to navigate the next challenge and or take advantage of the next opportunity. And this hesitancy, and what I see as a lack of urgency in many people, this almost in some ways just a fait accompli. Just say, oh, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm seeing a huge increase in that attitude in the organizations that I work for and with. And that can be headed off fairly easily. And it's a matter of investing in the development of people. And I'm not going to go down that road. Sure, we do that work. I've got a brand new leadership program we're launching in the next couple of weeks. That is going to be fantastic. And that's just not my opinion. That's from a lot of people I've shared that with who have said, wow, this is the kind of thing we've been waiting for. So I'll leave that with you. The only way we get past uncertainty and hesitancy and distraction and all of that is being proactive. And I just want to share with you that it isn't that hard to do that. And the main thing is we need to data driven solutions with people. So much of decisions in business are based on data, but the huge gap area is good data with people. So one of our slogans or bylines, so to speak, is consistent confidence with people decisions. It's so easy to get there, but I see so many people that either don't understand the value or struggle with it. So let me leave you with that. That's the Friday recap. I'm going to try and do this every Friday or end of the week, whenever that happens to be for me. Usually that's Saturday sometime, but hey, that's what happens when you own your own business. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy it. I'll put those free resources down below. Please do subscribe. Thank you.